What's good, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. I'm LotusAsakura, the one who knows best. And in today's video, I want to bring you guys basically a reaction, analysis, breakdown, commentary, whatever, on this video that we had that was dropped by the Evo channel. Tekken 8 devs talk season 2, balance changes, and more. I didn't know this was coming. I don't know if anybody else did, but this caught me completely off guard and by surprise. But there's bound to be something worth talking about in this video. I haven't seen it for myself yet, but I figured I would watch it, cover it, talk about it, whatever. So I'm recording myself watching it. I'm probably just going to talk about it as things go along and see if there's anything of note to basically just give my opinion or commentary on. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Myself. But yeah, actually later today, this video should be going up on the 23rd. Later today at 11 p.m. Eastern, I should also be live on both Twitch and YouTube to watch the Tekken talk that will be happening with Michael Murray, Harada, Nakatsu, probably the same exact people who are in this video. The showcasing a lot of what season 2 is going to have to offer as well. And so I'll be live for that, and I'll probably also do like a recap video after the fact for tomorrow. So yeah. Yeah, we already knew this, by the way. The game, we knew going into it, the game was going to be extremely aggressive, and it is the most aggressive Tekken has ever been. Which, honestly, from the jump, sorry, I'm also going to be pausing a lot, I'm sure, for when I have certain things to say. We knew the game was going to be aggressive going into it, and a lot of people were very apprehensive about that and reluctant to like really try to enjoy the game because it's like, oh, it's just going to be a lot of mashing or forced mix-ups and 50-50s and et cetera, et cetera. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Tekken 7 and Tekken 8 are two extremes. They're on the same spectrum, but complete opposite ends of it, where Tekken 7 was extremely defensive. You were basically the most effective and powerful game plan in 7 was to be defensive and be as safe as possible and to not interact, especially if you had a lead. Whereas in 8, it's to go as hard as possible and constantly go ham and heat burst, heat dash, this string into this mix up and plus frames and 50-50, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, very, very opposite ends of the spectrum. And to me, like, my opinion has been like, can we find the middle ground somewhere? And honestly, I like the aggressive direction of 8 in a lot of ways, but like we could dial it back just a bit and it'll probably a better game and a healthier game for us as well. This game is taxing. Very, very taxing. It feels the game naturally leans a little bit too much about. Yes, yes it does, in my opinion. Sorry, also I'm covering Harada's face. It just feels like the best place for my camera right now. That is one of the biggest offenders right there is Kuma. When he's in heat, boy.
システム的な良さが新しく作り直せたってところは一個いい点だと思っているのと、それに伴ってやっぱ攻めが強いゲーム性っていうのは攻めのパターンを誰でも楽しく
there's the aspect of having anyone having fun improving. There are a good number of new players at the beginning from Tekken 8. And Tekken 8, I'm sure, I mean, I've witnessed it, has introduced a lot of players to the franchise, either for the first time or for the first time since they were a kid playing like Tekken 3 or Tekken 4 or Tekken 5. So I think they've done a great job of enticing newcomers to try out the series and pick up the game. But they've also done a lot in order to allow them to feel good while playing the game. And by that, I really just mean like mamaking the game easy for them to play and pick up and perform at a certain level. 持っていく部分もあったなって収穫は非常にあったと思います。攻めてる側が楽しいゲーム性っていうのはやっぱりテケンとアグレッシブっていうゲーム性の軸の So like when you say you don't intend on changing it, like you can still have the game be aggressive, but it just not be as intense. On the other hand, in season 1, because it was constraining for defensive players and the heat system made it easy to match, it was pretty one-sided. And honestly, that is a criticism I have of the game. As much as I'm enjoying Tekken 8, especially right now, like I'm enjoying it probably the most I have, but also as frustrated as ever as well. Since the game came out, well, my enjoyment of the game has gone back up to about where it was when the game first dropped. Like when a game first drops, it's always, oh, it's exciting and hype and fresh. It is the shiny new toy. I say this all the time when games drop, right? And then obviously it eventually like wanes or dwindles. I took my break, I'm back on it and I'm feeling it. But in this game, it just feels like so many matches are completely one-sided. There's not a whole lot of back and forth a lot of times. Like how many, like I've gotten more perfects and also been perfected more in this game than any other game I've probably ever played. And the game's only a year old. And I feel like by far I've experienced and been on both sides of a perfect round more than any other game in Tekken 8. And it's not because, oh, I'm just that nasty or my opponents are just that nasty. That's the nature of the game where it's just like, if you manage to get going and you just snowball so quickly and it's just like very one-sided and just very like rounds just tend to be very dominant, and that speaks to the design of the game where there's not a lot of interaction sometimes. Which is funny because what they want was more interaction, but what they really ended up doing is that one person is interacting, another person is just watching. Wait, hold up, run that back. We'd like to focus on defense in terms of the lateral aspects of a 3D fighting game, which felt a little bit neglected in Season 1, I would say, because while the side steps were stronger, there's so many strings that track and moves with janky hitboxes and things like that. Each system is a starting point factor in which your attacks get really explosive. But yeah, like movement is strong, and how you use it matters just as much as using it at all. But we could adjust some of the moves to make movement even more powerful. When you're in heat state and taking a lot of damage on the ground, we're adding the ability to recover about 30% health from the actual damage inflicted. I have very mixed feelings about this because I haven't expressed this anywhere, because I don't tweet or make a YouTube video about every single thought that comes to my head, right? Because that can be very dangerous and stupid, and also I just don't feel that, you know, that compelled to do that all the time, right? But just to open up a little bit, not really, but a thought I've had recently while playing the game is, damn, a lot of moves in Tekken hit grounded. Why do so many moves hit you while you're on the ground? Like you can never really like play it safe and just stay on the ground just for a moment, just to like think, or just, you know, just to slow things down just the tiniest bit, you know what I'm saying? Like in some other games you can like delay your wake up and things like that, and like you can stay on the ground in Tekken, but you're not safe there. And in some other games, like you're safe on the ground for at least a moment, you know what I mean? Whereas in Tekken, like pretty much every character has something they can do that's going to hit you on the ground, and it does a decent amount of damage. And if you stay on the ground for too long, they can keep hitting you over and over again. And I was just like, damn, why do so many moves do that? So them allowing you to recover life off that, because you can take so much damage while grounded, kind of balances that out. But honestly, one of the things that I wanted to see in Season 2 of Tekken 8, a change that I personally would have liked, is for there to just be, generally speaking, less recoverable health. I wanted less chip and I wanted less gray life. But I guess with the less chip damage, like there won't be as much gray life all the time, right? You won't see Kuma knocking somebody silly for 10 seconds while they're in heat, and their health bar is 60% gray life. That's all recoverable health, right? But I've just seen it too many times where like I get going in a round, I'm beating my opponent pretty badly, whatever. Like I've got like a 50 to 60% life lead on them, and then they get one hit, and now they have like 70% of their health back. So they're up to like 70% health, and suddenly I'm the one where I'm in a one-touch situation. It's like, now wait a minute. Like, why were they able to recover like 40% health? And this is 30% of the damage taken, so it's not 30% of your health bar, so it's a little bit different. But I have mixed feelings about that. I don't know how I'll feel until it happens, I guess, but I wanted to see less recoverable health, but this is a specific situation in which maybe it's better that way. I don't really know. In doing so, you now have the strategy of fighting while preserving your heat gauge. Up until now, the correct action when you activate heat was either to heat smash or rush down your opponent utilizing the unique individual power properties of heat, which some characters do that significantly better than others. I mean, I'll see how much of a difference that really makes. Also, this time there are a number of characters that are now able to use heat burst and heat smash for their special defense as well. This is something, again, I have mixed feelings on. I guess I'm just like, am I just like the eternal fence sitter? But it's like, people would probably, if you ask people if they wanted more mix-ups or less mix-ups in Tekken 8, they'd probably say less. But by allowing people to do heat smash from stance, you're giving them more. But also you're allowing them to be more creative with the offense, I guess, in terms of like mix-ups and combo routes and everything. So that's also kind of cool, but it's just like, you know. But I guess, again, like combo routes, certain confirms and everything like that as well. But the reason why we made it characters like Anna. Oh, so they're just straight up admitting. It was like, oh, we added Anna, so we had to add that. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Yeah, I get it, right? Certain characters, they're the most powerful mix-ups and tools come from full crouch. A character like Anna specifically, so you add the ability to go into full crouch with a heat engager because you're adding her to the game, but I just don't think most players actually want that. Like I said, they're adding just more and more mix-ups, which is like, I think, opposite of what most players would say that they want to see if you were to ask them.
しっかりしたキーコンセプトがあってそれを守んないとまず面白いゲームにはならないからアグレッシブというものをぶれないようにしている
I mean, my thing is that like you can make the game be aggressive without it being so extreme. I just think Tekken 8 is like very, very extreme.
コンセプト捨てるんじゃなくて理不尽な
Rather
こ
than
とを直
tossing
せ
your
ばいい
concept, you just fix whatever
理不尽な
unfairnesses.
ところを直したり、それを
Thing is like you can still have like string mix-ups. You can still have like big damage and long combos. I'm actually a really big fan of combos in Tekken 8. I think combos are really cool and really fun. I know some people would prefer if the damage was toned down or if combos were shorter. I don't really fall in that camp. But like you can still have all that stuff. But let's like instead of a combo doing 80 damage, let's say it just does 70. Like just bring it down a percentage. You know what I'm saying? Instead of this move being a homing move, maybe it tracks to one side. Instead of this move tracking to both sides, it tracks to one side. Or let's just nerf the tracking to some degree on some of these strings and stuff. How about if the first hit of this string whiffs, the third hit does not go in the opposite direction or do a 180? You know what I'm saying? Just stuff like that. Like you can still have the types of tools that you want and the type of system that you want and heat dash and everything like that. But everything doesn't have to be as homogenous as it is. Everything doesn't have to be as powerful as it is. You could still have that concept without throwing it away and discarding it. I don't think most people want you to just complete this. I think a lot of people like the system of 8. Not everybody does, obviously, but it's just like, again, it's just extreme. It's just so extreme.
だから0-1じゃないんだよね。0と1だとみんな思い込んでる。で、いいバランス。
Some people like how extreme it is, though. Some people like the million and one split second decisions you have to constantly make, and you feel like you're constantly playing a game of life and death. For me, it's like that can be fun sometimes, but it's just like very stressful and very taxing.
こうなるわけだから、その反応で見ると、鉄拳8のすごく変化したところって
Also just the risk reward as well. That's a huge thing for me. Honestly, that's a big reason why a lot of this negative feedback surprisingly came from the veterans. I bet most of the satisfaction surprisingly came from the people who have been doing this series for a long time. Okay, let me say what I was going to say because that's an important point to touch on as well. Oh no, I lost my train of thought. Man. Okay, we'll touch on that. If I remember while I'm editing, or if it comes back to me, then I'll speak up on it. I think it speaks volumes if your most loyal and long-term fan base are the ones who are pushing back on the design or the philosophy of the game. Obviously, a lot of them are still playing and are enjoying the game, but a lot of them aren't. And even the ones who are playing have been very vocal of the things that they don't enjoy about it. And while I don't think they should necessarily always be the #1 priority, they should matter to some degree. Because obviously, at the end of the day, the top players and the pro players, the ones who are getting top 8s and 16s at Combo Breaker, CEO, Evo, TWT, and everything like that, they don't make up the majority of the player base. They aren't the ones who like really line your wallets and make you the money, because it's the casual player base, right? So that's why they cater so much to the casuals, because out of the 8 million people who might end up buying this game, or 10 million copies they might sell, maybe a couple hundred are like super duper duper good. You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about the top 100 players in the world that you regularly see at these events, let's just say, right? Like obviously they are far outnumbered by the amount of people who are just going to be slamming some buttons, playing with their friends, going online, and like, you know, hovering around the purple and blue ranks, maybe getting the Tekken King, Tekken Emperor, like my garbage ass. You feel me? Which I wouldn't really consider myself a casual, not a top player either. I'm like a try-hard casual, sweaty, you know what I'm saying, intermediate, whatever you want to call it. But I think it speaks volumes. Like it should say something that like your most loyal and longtime fans are like, hey, we're not really feeling this too much, and their voices should be heard. I think those voices deserve to be heard. And like I said, they don't always got to be the #1 priority, but I do think at times it feels like a lot of games these days, particularly fighting games, are catering too hard to the casual audience and going so far out of the way and bending over backwards trying to get new people to pick up their game and stick to it. And like some things work and some things are good and some things don't work anyway. And then all it does is create like this animosity or like this bad blood or like this negative feeling or atmosphere around the game and its system, its mechanics, everything. And like nothing's ever going to be perfect. You'll never be perfect. You'll never please everybody. But I just feel like, you know, there needs to be a balance. And obviously they're trying to find that balance, but I don't think that balance has been found just yet in Tekken 8, but I do think it's getting there.
逆に 鉄拳8が面白いと思ってる人、その例えば初心者に優しいか優しくない
Whether or
か
not
って
Tekken is
話
easy
と
for new
全
players
く
or not is a
別
different
で
story. I think it's
全く
very
別
easy for new
全
players
く
compared
別
to
で
any other
その
Tekken
壁
game.
を越えてきて8が面白いと思ってる人
Probably
は
the easiest
今回
Tekken has
の
ever
8
been,
の
while
仕組み
also
が
being
や
the
っぱ気に入っ
hardest
て
for a
る
different reason.
ので、だから8が面白いなって言ってる。でこれをじゃあその
I think
駆け引きのバ
offense
ラ
is
ンスっていうのを
extremely accessible in
じゃ
this
あもう
game,
ちょっとベテ
which
ランの
makes
人
it
用に
easy
しよ
for
うっ
players
て
to
や
like
ったら
win.
もちろん8が面白いって言ってた人の満足度は下がるわけで、だからここは結構トレードオフなので、まあでもそれにしてもちょっとここは極端になってるよね
We
み
see
たい
about
な
how
こ
much
と
an
を
aspect might be too
どれ
extreme.
ぐらい
Thank you. My words exactly. And honestly, balance one
とこ
monitor.
ろが正直なとこ
Okay,
ろなの
okay.
で
So they're
あんまり
they're
この
aware
どっち
at
っていう
least.
か簡単な話じゃないんだよね。その
Super minute in the
細
degree
かい
or rather minute in the
メモリ
adjustments
と
that
い
are
う
made.
の調整をやってるって感じだよね。e スポーツの結果から
You
見
look
て
at the
も
results from esports in the
Season one
game as
通して見て
season
も
one.
そう中津話したけど、
そう意外と
期待してた
Expecting
誰も
unknown
知ら
people
な
to
い人
pop
が
up.
出て
Oh,
く
I
る
think this is vaguely related to what I was gonna say. When I lost my train of thought just a moment ago. Inevitably, with every new title, right, there are going to be new players who pop up and spring up and become very strong players or get really into the series or franchise and become new long-term or even lifetime fans. And there's going to be players who fall off. When Tekken Tag 2 ended and Tekken 7 showed up, a lot of players who were dominant Tag 2, they stopped coming around. You know what I'm saying? We ain't see players like Nin, for example. You know what I mean? I don't even know what that guy is up to these days. You know what I mean? I don't really remember seeing Nin in the Tekken 7 scene at all. Think about it. And he's just one player that immediately comes to mind just because I remember seeing him a lot in those Tag 2 top 8s and stuff. But yeah, like even if they're one of the best players in the world, like when that next game comes around, a lot of them stick around. Some of them don't. There's like, I don't really like this new system. Likewise, with 7 going into 8, there are players who fall off just because they can't keep up with the modern mechanics in the game and the system, or they don't like it and don't even want to try. Whatever the case is, you know what I'm saying? There's always going to be a new crop that shows up and the old guard that falls off. And they don't even necessarily got to be older players. They could still be a young player and just be like, I ain't really feeling that no more. I've seen that as well.
今まであんまり活躍できなかった人が上がってる、もしくは知らない人が上がってくる。でも逆に言うと、
There's a rise in
やっ
people
ぱ
that
り
weren't
上
able
手い
to
人
be
が上位に
active. And yeah,
や
people
っ
who
ぱ
are
り
skilled
上手い
at
人
go to
が
high
上位
ranks
に来
and
る。
climbing
だけど
ranks.
ちゃんと
But
上手い人が上位に来るけど、優勝してるキャラが
characters
意外
that
と、あ
win
と
or
ベスト
at the
8
top
の
8
キャラ
characters
が
are
バラバラ
actually quite scattered.
これ意外と
Especially with 7
セブン
people
の
like
時
veterans,
に
most
ベ
people
テラン
question
の
why
人
certain
ほど
characters or players kept winning.
こんな固定の
Is it really that
プレイヤー
scattered? I feel like it's
こん
been
な
consistently a
固
lot
定
of
の
the
キャラ
same
が勝
characters
つの
we're
はどう
seeing
な
in
んだ
these
って
top 8s
ベテラ
for
ンの人
season
ほど
1.
文句言ってた
We've seen a
こと
decent
が実は
amount,
一
but
番
it's been a
解
ton
消
of
されて
dragging
ない
off.
8。
それは間違いない
Nina,
です。
結果から見ると
Fang.
そうなんだよ。8なんだ
A
けど、
lot of, as you're saying at the
そ
start
れでも
before
面
she
白い
got
ことに、
nerfed. Decent amount of Reina before she got nerfed.
ベテランの人ほど
Veterans mostly
こ
also
のちょっ
complain about how they
と
don't
新
really
シ
like
ス
the
テム
new
は気に入
system.
らないって言ってるって
You know,
こ
part
の
of
矛盾
that's
が
also
面
just
白い
going to be, it's like, oh, we don't like change. We like the way it was before. And there's also the classic cycle of old game good, new game bad. Like new game bad, old game good. You see that with every new installation, with every new installment, of a series, right? Whether it's Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Guilty Gear, new game bad, old game good. Even if you have a game like Street Fighter 5, which was infamous, was notorious for having a horrible launch, being bare bones, hardly working, terrible online, game sucked, Street Fighter players, Tekken players, Mortal Kombat players, everybody hated on that game for what felt like years. And it got better over time and finally got to a good state. Like at the end of its lifespan, it felt like people were like, oh, this game's actually kind of sick. We're enjoying it. And obviously, again, there's going to be people who always enjoyed it. But I feel like most people did not really enjoy that game or think it was that great. And then Street Fighter 6 comes out and for the first week or month or whatever, everyone's like, oh, this game is sick. And then there's a bunch of people like, actually, this game is garbage and Street Fighter 5 was way better. And then they did that with Street Fighter 5. Oh, this game is garbage. Street Fighter 4 was way better and so on and so forth. So it's like every single time. And like, yeah, it's just, yeah. Every game, every series, new game bad, old game good, never
つもりな
fails.
んだけど、でも e スポーツの結果から見ると結構いい俺らが思い描いた通りになってる。
Seems good and going the way we imagined.
中津さん話してたのが
Spoke about this in the contest
格
on.
ゲ
I
ー
think
に
that
と
makes
っ
the
て
game a good
は
product.
結構いいバランスっていうのはキャラバンじゃないです製品としての。というのは周りの人たちで
Is
ま
that
だ
people that
鉄
have
にやっ
never
たこ
played
とない人
Tekken
が
that
8
start
から
from
入っ
8 can
て
have the feeling of,
俺で
oh
も
no, if
頑
I
張れば
actually
勝て
try
そうっ
even
て
I
気
can
持ち
win.
に8
So I've actually spoken about this on stream multiple times. I don't know how often I've talked about this in YouTube videos, but this is an opinion that I have that some people may not want to hear and feel however you want about this. But, and this just confirms it, but I am of the belief, I struggle to call it an opinion, but I guess it is an opinion, but it basically confirms it as a fact, right? This is how the developers feel. games today, actually, I think I went on a mini rant about this on one of my recent streams. Games today, especially fighting games, are going out of their way to design the game so that the better player does not always win. There's a lot of people out there, I know this because you guys are in my comments, that think if a player wins, that means that they are better. Point blank, period. That is usually the case. That is not always the case. And it hasn't historically always been the case. But I think it was more so the case in the past than it is in the modern day. When these developers are designing games these days, they're making powerful tools more and more accessible. They are lowering the skill floor of the games, not necessarily always the ceiling, but definitely lowering the floor a lot so that a weaker player has a strong chance, or at least some chance, against a stronger player. Now, if you're Mighty Ruler ranked player John Boy 69420, yeah, maybe your king who just mashes bag 3 and Shining Wizard doesn't have a chance against Arslan, Ash, or Knee. Might have a little bit more of a chance than you would have in like Tekken 7, but yeah, you might still be getting stomped out by a super high level player. But let's say you're a Mighty Ruler player and you're like hard stuck Mighty Ruler, you still have a decent chance of fighting somebody who's like a Bushin rank, a Tekken King rank, a Tekken Emperor, or even maybe even like a God of Destruction. And that's by design of the game. The game wants to make it so that players don't ever feel like it's it's too far out of reach. Like they have a shot, they have a chance. And that's also why you see things like comeback mechanics and everything like that, because they don't want the things to be too one-sided, whether that's regenerated health or having like a sparking blast like in Dragon Ball FighterZ or X Factor or whatever. So it's like we have this thing where even though you were losing, we're gonna make you way stronger and help recover health and all this, so that you have a chance at still winning the game. And we see more of this and more of this and more of this. And what it does, in my opinion, is creates the most frustrating experience for a player of like my level, for example, where I'm like an above average fighting game player. I'm like intermediate. Pretty much any fighting game that I pick up, I'm going to be better than most players, but I'm not going to be like a top player. But I can get consistently to around the same skill level that I am like in Tekken, and basically like any game that I play, whether that was Dragon Ball FighterZ or like when I was playing Grand Blue, I was getting pretty good at that. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't always learn every game as quickly, but I can pretty much always get to around this kind of skill level. You know what I'm saying? And what happens is you have somebody like me who I play the game a decent amount. I watch a lot of film, my own replays. I do my stuff in training mode. I watch guys and other streams, and I study the game a decent amount. I study and practice a decent amount and get a lot of reps in. And I think a lot about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, even if I don't always necessarily make the right decisions or my hands don't always agree with what my brain's going on. But I can do all of that. And not to say that I can't work even harder or be more efficient, because I absolutely can, right? And that's part of why I'm in this position. But a player who doesn't do any of what I do, or even half or even a third or even a quarter of what I do in order to improve at the game, can get to the same point that I'm at. And that's how the game is designed to be. That's how Tekken 8 absolutely is designed to be. I put in a decent amount of work to get to the skill level that I am, and a player who doesn't do half of that same amount of work can get here. Now, what does that say about me? It says a lot. I'm not practicing or training efficiently enough. I'm not that great, whatever, right? That can all be true. And it is. It is, right? I will be the first person to admit that losses more than anything come down to my own shortcomings as a player, because if I was that much better than my opponent, then I should win, right? At least more often than not. But you definitely do get robbed a lot in games because the game wants you to be able to get robbed, if that makes sense, right? A player who just like all they've done is learn their own combo and like their most powerful tools, and they're just throwing that out willy-nilly. There's no thought process about conditioning or making any sort of adjustment to their opponent, or I know this matchup, I gotta duck that string, this is the punishable on block, and not even necessarily on instinct, literally just the first thing that comes to mind, they just do it. You can play like that, and if you're objective and you watch my videos, you see me come across players like this all the time in every game, with DBFZ, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken. There are players who, like, you can clearly tell it's not a thought going on up here, but they're the same rank as me. I think that's like a sign of bad design. Like, I don't like that it's that way, but of course I don't, because I'm the player who's at that level where it's like, well, I put in a decent amount of work and I am better than a lot of players because of that work that I put in. But then you have, like I said, little Johnny over here who don't really have a clue what he's doing. He has some clue, but doesn't have nearly as much information, knowledge, or practice as I do, but still somehow manages to slop his way up to the same level online as me. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just, yeah, sorry, that was a big tangent and a big rant, but that's something I feel passionately about, something I've been thinking about a lot, and something that I've spoken on lately, so I really wanted to get that off my chest. I'm sorry if y'all didn't give a fuck about that.
でもじゃあ、そいつらが
Obviously not going to be able to
西
beat
マスターに
Nishimasta.
勝てるかっていうと勝て
I
ない
mean,
じゃ
it
ん。
might.
そうそうそう
だからそのちょうどいい
絶対勝てるかってそうでもない。やっぱり
Veterans are veterans for a reason. Yeah, and that's why I made the example earlier that, you know, Nii is obviously still going to beat 99.99% of all players, but there might be some players who have a better chance now than they ever would have before. You know what I mean?
まあやっぱりその移動面を強化するのは
The reason why we're improving the movement aspect is the fact that Tekken's game nature is aggressive, right? And so in order to combat that, you want to have freer movement and like more effective movement. In 3D fighting games, you can use lateral movement as a defensive maneuver to dodge attacks.
横移動
Yeah, but we've gotten the name Track and 8 as a meme for a
相
reason.
手の
Though.
攻めに対して避けたりするって
I
いう
know
ところで
I've
防御面
talked about it a
の
bit
強化
myself.
っていうのが一つと、あとはもう一つは
Also, this is going to be big as well. Being able
ずっ
to
としゃがんだ
sidestep
状
at
態
the
で手前
foreground
に
from crouch,
横に
very
移動でき
powerful.
なかったっていうところ
Going
で
to add another
鉄
layer
拳
as
糸から
well.
始めた多くの
And force the offensive player to think a bit more, just a little bit
なぜ
more about
横
what
移
they're
動
doing.
があるのにしゃ
New
がんだ
players that
状
started
態か
from
ら手
8
前
found
に
it
横移動
difficult to
でき
understand
ない
why you couldn't
分
do
か
that
りに
despite
くい
being
遊
able
ん
to
で
move
いた自分
laterally.
からしても
Even for us who've played
な
the
んで
series didn't know
っていう
why,
分
so
かり
we
にく
wanted
い
to
ところ
fix
を解
that.
消したかったところ
Yeah,
で
honestly, I don't know
防御
why
面
you
強
couldn't
化
do
っ
that
ていう
before.
とその新規にとっての分かりにくいっていうところを改善してあげるっていう
Yeah,
ところで
I don't know the
しゃが
reasoning
み
or the logic or the rationale. Maybe it's just something that like
レスポン
they
スよく
couldn't do because of some
キャラ
sort
ク
of
ターを動かせ
limitation,
るし
technological
防
aspect
御
or
面の
philosophy
行動
that
も
some
強
old
化で
developer
きる
had or
ということで
something,
そ
and
う
it
い
just
う
got
変
lost in
更が
time and they just
意
never
図的
changed
じゃな
it.
くて
I don't
な
know.
んかテクニカルな面でちょっと難
Oh,
しか
well,
った
there you go. It
もの
wasn't
なんです
intentional.
ね
It was a
俺さっき
technical
もさ
limitation in the past, and they just
ごめんな
never
さい。本当は
rectified
そうしたいけど
スクリプト的な感じです
昔は難しかったんですよ。
エンジニアの協力も必要で時間
It
もかか
required
るから
engineering. It
今
would
までや
take
る
time, so we just weren't able to do it. So no, I'm not a developer, so
そ
I
う
don't
そう
know
それが
why
鉄
that
拳って
was
ゲー
so
ムの課金になって
unachievable
た
back in the day, but
カ
they
ズヤ
can do
の
it
あの
now.
かかと
So
落とし
whatever.
で手前いけないからこういうことしようとかそういうことでしょ
っていうのは、横に行けるっていう選択肢が増えることで守ってる側も相手の攻めに対して、まあ、どう
Also,
今まで
quickly, I know we were a little bit removed. I just want to add this in case I forgot to mention to my little rant / tangent earlier. I just wanted to make sure that I stated that the point of that to say was that it creates the most frustrating experience for a player of like my ilk, right? I think the most frustrating, I can't necessarily say the most, but I think one of the most frustrating points to be at as a fighting game player or like in terms of levels of skill is at my skill level where it's like I'm working hard, I am improving, I'm better than most people, but I still come across players who are just like face rolling and I'm losing. I think it's a very, very frustrating experience to have. Anyway, I'm done with it now.
できなかったことを試すことで、防御面的な強化もされるし攻める側はそれにじゃあどう対応するかっていうのは新しい駆け引きが
Anyway, we feel the strategy there will be a lot of situations where it won't be a 50-50. So it does take out some of the forced 50-50s that you had before just because the movement's a little bit better. Also, yeah, the nerf to Dragonov's kick.
弱体が一番気にあんだけもうねオン
I
ライ
wonder
ン
what
の
else
一
we'll see
定
in
の
this Tekken
プレイヤ
talk
ー層
later today.
はあれしか出してこないから
All the players online? Yeah, you mean all the players in the game in general. Atif and Osan still abuse 1-2-1 and QCF4, man. That's all you really
だ
need.
からじゃあそれも言いたかったのが
1-2-1 QCF4
みんな
down
何で
2
も
back
かんで
1 plus
も俺が決め
2.
てると思ってるけど
そんなわけないです
じゃあ原さんいや違うツイッターだよ原さんとかねでもそうじゃなくて
A 4 1 plus 2.
チームに
That'll
ね
get you
役割
by.
がある
One combo.
で役割のプロジェクトの当初はなかつねアグレッシブのコンセプトを作り出すのはそうだったけど今の俺の役割は割
Well,
と
I play the game a lot and get feedback with the players' feelings in
プレイヤーの
mind.
気持ちに
They're very active on Twitter as well. So like they,
ここ
especially
ひどいよ
Michael
中
Murray.
津なんとかして
No,
くれ
both of
で
them.
結構
Michael Murray and
言ってるじゃん
Harada. Nakatsu is decently, but I see
だ
Michael
から
Murray and Harada on
俺
Twitter all the
あ
time.
の PS5 のシーンも両方パ
That's
ス
why I
ファ
buy
イトパ
both
ス
my
買って
passes
両
for
方
PC
完
and
走して
PS5. I
て
can play both.
でそれを見
He's
て
actually buying
あプレイヤーの一部はこれは感情的プレイヤーの一部のこういうことを言ってるのは
Yeah, so anyway, I was saying that they're very active on Twitter, so they got their ear to the streets. They know what people are saying.
割
at
と
all
割と
times
高
about
態
it.
度が出てきた
なるほどね
It's just how much does that actually
あとはちょっと調整
translate
とは
into
違うんですけ
change.
どシーズン2って
And I get it. You have to be
やっぱり
very
初心
selective
者
about what you listen to and about
も
what
っと見
changes
て
you
る人
make.
も分かりやすくしたい
You can't just listen to anybody.
鉄
And
拳
most
シリ
people
ーズ
don't
で
have a
初め
point.
て
So
バトル中に何ヒットコンボとか
whoa,
Series
whoa.
初めて
As for the
バトル中
whoa. I want to make it easier. I wanted to make it easier for people like beginners to understand. So as a first for the Tekken series, you'll see things like combo count, counter hit, and punish mid-battle. You know what's funny? I recently heard FeedX somewhere talking about his thoughts and feelings on like if they were to add stuff like that on screen and how he was pretty much opposed to it. And I think a lot of like older Tekken players and veterans and you know, traditionalists and whatever would oppose that idea. I don't personally think it's a big of a deal. I honestly always thought it was kind of weird that Tekken doesn't have a combo counter. It's not like it doesn't really matter that much, but I always thought it was kind of weird that it doesn't. But it's especially because when you're in training mode, there is a combo counter. It does show you the damage. It does say if something is a counter hit or a punish or whatever. So I would imagine that all they're going to do is the same shit you see in training mode. They're just going to hack that. Like obviously not with all the frame data and everything, right? But the combo counter, the damage, everything, like those numbers that you see in training mode, that's just going to be in the game now, which is going to maybe throw some people off. I'm sure it's going to be very mixed reception. It's going to be something that's very polarizing, but I'm not opposed to that. I don't think it's a big deal one way or the other. I do think there is some level of like nuance or skill lost when you can see visually on screen the word counter hit, especially when it's a game like Try Right Counter. You get this big announcer and giant fucking text on screen. But like, you know, Tekken 8 has things that let you know it's a counter hit. Oh, there's this sound effect, this hit spark, you know, but you have to recognize that and, you know, react to it and react accordingly. But now it's just going to be even easier, I guess, to some degree. That's not the type of change though that I think immediately like shrinks the skill gap so much though. Like, will it make it easier for some players? Yeah, but it's going to be a lot of players who, even with the same counter hit on screen, they still not going to do the right thing. So.
俺と木本さんが大嫌いだった。
そうあえて大
嫌いだった。要は数値化すること自体がもうなんていうの、その難しく見える。いや難しく見えるというか、それが全部それが全てになっちゃうじゃないですか。
Basically want players to think about it themselves by not displaying numbers. But you do it in training mode anyway.
コンボとかもだってもうコンボの数を競うようになってきちゃうと、もう限界数と最低限の数だけの世界になっちゃうじゃないですか。だからそれはなんか逆にこう分かんないところがあっても面白いんじゃないかだったんだけど、最近やっぱり昔と変わってきたのは。A
lot of people watching streams where they want to know what's happening. Well, that's another thing as well, is that Tekken 8 is very, very big on the spectacle and spectatorship, the viewer. And so adding that stuff adds a lot for the viewer who might not really know what's going on. It's like, oh wow, that was a 10-hit combo. Oh my god, that was an 80 damage combo. Like, you know what I'm saying? We'll see though. Like I said, I think there's going to be pushback on it. It's going to be very polarizing.
鉄拳実はそのアーケードがなくて家庭用で一斉ローンチしたの鉄拳8が初めて。僕らも大変だったんですけど、シーズン
That's also noteworthy. I talked a lot about this leading up to the game and then like you know after the game release. First time ever, no arcade release, straight to console. This is Tekken 8.0 and you know where it's still very, very early on. The original versions of a lot of Tekken games were really bad before they eventually made it to console. And it's only up from here.
本当にパッチノートマギさんがものすごい数訳してるんですけど、シーズン2でやっぱりもっとファンの期待に応えたいってところで、真剣にいろいろ議論してよくしようとしたので、そこはバトルに関しては結構変わってるけど楽しい部分もたくさんあるので、ぜひ自分のキャラクターの調整を楽しむのも。
I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to season 2. I never did do like my wish list for season 2 or whatever. Matter of fact, nah, we're not gonna get into it. We're not gonna get into it. This video is already long enough. I've already tripled damn near the amount of time that this video was just because of my pausing and ranting and rambling and everything like that. But I'm looking forward to season 2. Hopefully you guys are as well. I found that video very interesting, and like I said, I'll be live at 11 p.m. Eastern, both on Twitch and YouTube, watching the Tekken Talk. And then I most likely will do like a recap or breakdown or whatever of all the events that take place in a video that I'll probably upload either later tonight or at some point tomorrow. But yeah, I did a lot of yapping in this video. shared some thoughts that I had been mostly keeping to myself up to now. But and another reason why, by the way, I don't always necessarily share those thoughts is because sometimes my opinion changes, and that's perfectly normal and human. The internet tries to pretend that your opinion is never allowed to change and you have to stand on business and be 10 toes down on anything that you ever say for the rest of your life once you've said it. But hot take, I think as a human being and as an adult with a functioning brain, it is perfectly logical, reasonable, normal, and should be accepted as such to form an opinion, but then also be allowed to change that opinion when presented with new information. Wild concept, I know. And that's just something that constantly happens. So I just, So sometimes I'll have a thought or an opinion. I'm like, I'm gonna just keep that to myself because it's not like fully formulated or anything yet. Or maybe it's just, I just don't feel like the internet needs to know. Regardless, anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit this video with a like if you enjoy. Subscribe if you haven't already so you can stay tuned for all this content that I bring you. With all that being said, that's pretty much all I have today. And remember, nothing can happen to you swing the bat. Later.